Hello there, everybody. I'm Belinda. Welcome. Before we start, I would recommend just quickly grabbing a pen and paper, just if you want to jot down some notes and make sure you've got some water to stay hydrated, especially because we're going to do some energy clearings briefly at the end. Um, so yes, if you'd like to pause the video now and get anything you need, get nice and relaxed and comfy before we begin. All right. Okay, everyone. So thank you for joining the Sensitives and Intuitives Masterclass. I'm so looking forward to diving into this with you today. I'll start by introducing myself. So my name is Belinda Davey. I'm a healer and guide specializing in supporting highly sensitive people just like you to heal and live their purpose in the world so they can thrive. So we're going to cover a lot today, but first I'll tell you a bit about the story of my own journey and how I got here. So throughout my life, and especially when I was younger, I constantly felt like an outsider, and I couldn't seem to find anyone who seemed to understand me, and I had no idea why. So I learned to adapt and just sort of blend in with most people, but the truth was I never really seemed to fit in anywhere. And yet, when I looked at the other people around me, they always just seemed to naturally click together. And that was really confusing. I'm sure you can relate. So I started to wonder why. What is it about me that makes me different to everyone else? And I remember I always had this internal conflict of wondering, should I try and change myself to pretend to fit in at least? And I just remember feeling so alone all the time. Sometimes, I felt like I was born on the wrong planet. And sometimes I would pluck up the courage to talk to a friend about my experiences. But what I noticed is that even when people were genuinely trying to understand me, genuinely trying to support me, they just couldn't relate. And so I spent most of my early life feeling very misunderstood and confused about who I was, constantly wondering why I struggled with so many things that nobody else seemed to understand. And then in my 20s, I actually discovered my traits, and I finally began to understand who I was. So I've spent the last decade or so doing a lot of research, and one day I came across the term highly sensitive person, which is HSP for short. And I also took the personality test by Myers-Briggs, which you can find online. Some of you might have already heard of that. And that was when I also discovered I'm an intuitive personality type. And I remember it was like this light bulb moment for me. It was like such a relief, like, finally I understood who I was. And it just felt like the most liberating thing, like a huge relief to see that even though these traits are not so common in the majority of the population, there are literally thousands of people just like us all around the world. And so I didn't feel so alone or misunderstood in my experiences anymore. So I'm curious, just think back to remember how you felt when you first found out about your traits. For many of us, it was actually a liberating experience. And so as I've uncovered more about my traits, having that new awareness enabled me to recognize my needs and improve my quality of life. And for me personally, it was one of the catalysts to change. When I realized that my old career would never work for me, I ended up going on the path of recognizing my true purpose. And what I want you to know is that you don't just have to blend in with the crowd and waste your time trying to fit in. That will make you feel trapped and unhappy. So you're designed this way for a reason. Our society actually needs people like us. It's our gifts that we bring to the world. And that starts with loving and accepting our authentic selves. So after we all go through those early years of confusion, the key is to learn about and honor your true self. So today I'll be talking about what it means to be sensitive and intuitive and a few of the common experiences we tend to have with this trait. I'll tell you about what it looks like to be balanced versus some areas where we might want to improve or shift where we might currently be imbalanced in our lives. Then I'll discuss our strengths and unique gifts. And then I'll go into our top 5 challenges and strategies to overcome them. And you'll receive a few energy healing downloads at the end as well. So we all know that we're different from the crowd, right? Well, here's some statistics. Intuitive personality types make up only 25% of the population, and highly sensitive people are even less at 15 to 20%. So it's no surprise that we're seen as different from the majority. And although our culture isn't always kind to people who are seen as different, the truth is being different is awesome because it means that you're special. You have unique strengths that other people can only dream of having. And there's a great quote by Albert Einstein that I love. He said, "Everyone is a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will spend its whole life believing that it's stupid." So the truth is that you are valuable and worthy, regardless of whether other people recognize it or not. It doesn't matter. What matters is that you understand this in your heart. So now we're going to look at and explore what it means to be highly sensitive. So ask yourself if this sounds like you. You're very observant and insightful. You feel deeply and empathize easily. You can sometimes get easily overwhelmed by things like big crowds, loud noises, bright lights. You have a deep, rich inner life, and you need lots of quiet time alone. And that's just a snapshot. There's a lot of great articles and books that go into more depth as well. And there's a lot of misconceptions around this in society. At some point in our lives, most of us take on the belief that we're weak or damaged in some way, and we have to just get a thick skin and toughen up like everyone else. But it's our job as sensitives to ignore those comments because it's all just BS. Being highly sensitive isn't something we can just switch off. It actually means that we're born with a different nervous system. It's more finely tuned than others. And Dr. Elaine Aron, the author of The Highly Sensitive Person, she actually discovered in her research that this trait is a specific gene shared by highly sensitives, and it's also known as sensory processing sensitivity. And it's found in much of the animal kingdom as well. So if you're a HSP, you were probably born this way. Other people say it can be a survival adaptation to trauma. I think both theories could be valid. So unlike the old misconceptions, being highly sensitive isn't a weakness or something we can change. And what it actually means is that your nervous system is designed to have less barriers than other people have. And those barriers are what's preventing their bodies from feeling and experiencing things as deeply and intensely as you do. How crazy is that? Nobody ever told us there was such a thing as being born with different nervous systems. And I imagine if there was more awareness and understanding about this in the world, people would be a lot more compassionate and understanding and less dismissive. And that's a big reason why I do this work, why I specialize in working with highly sensitives and speaking out about the trait, because I think it's a really good thing to spread the awareness in society. And even though we can't change the trait, it's something that once we have a better awareness of our own needs, we can definitely learn to better manage our sensitivity through self-care and getting more in tune with our body, our needs, and our preferences. So yeah, it's a skill that can be developed over time. Something interesting that I was reading, apparently, back in ancient tribes, the elders would recognize the young, highly sensitive children early on in life, and they would be raised differently to the other children so they could learn to uphold their role and help protect the tribe when they got older. And to them, they saw it as this amazing gift because the advantage of being sensitive was that they could easily spot potential threats before anyone else. So they were able to warn the tribe in advance, long before anyone else noticed anything suspicious. So back then, highly sensitives were seen as highly prized and valuable members of the group. who played a vital role to ensure the survival of the tribe. But if you fast forward to modern day society, we see a very different social perspective. Rather than prized for our unique value, unfortunately, we often get told to stop being so sensitive or toughen up, which implies that there's something wrong with us. Now, sure, there's something known as oversensitivity, as in being overly reactive, but that's completely different from this trait of sensitive processing. So those negative statements from society then tend to get internalized and become negative self-beliefs that impact us sensitives at a deep subconscious level. But I want you to know that there's nothing wrong with you. The real problem is a lack of education in society. Now remember that with your uniqueness also comes a lot of strengths as well. And yeah, if you're interested in learning more about the trait, there's the book, The Highly Sensitive Person by Dr. Elaine Aron, as I mentioned before. She actually did a whole PhD study on the trait. And there's also a version called The Highly Sensitive Parent as well. That one is specifically for parenting. So a lot of us were raised by non-sensitive families. So most of them probably didn't really have any knowledge about this trait. And it's not like they received an instruction manual for how to raise a sensitive child, which actually would have been very helpful. But what happened was, as children, we then had to learn to adapt to their ways, which probably would have been stressful. And in modern society, a lot of people tend to be very disconnected from themselves. So being surrounded by certain energies can be really unsupportive for the highly sensitive person. But now that we're aware of our traits, we can start to make small tweaks to our lifestyle to meet our needs. So that might look like allowing yourself more time to process your thoughts before replying to someone, spending more time winding down and relaxing before bed, doing some gentle or restorative yoga, spending more time in nature, planting your feet on the grass. So many things you could do to support yourself with what you specifically need. So I encourage you to look for ways to create more spaciousness in your life so that it just gets to be so much easier and more relaxing for you. Okay, so now we're going to talk about what it means to be an intuitive personality. So intuition is about noticing the unseen, the more abstract things in life, like meanings, possibilities, and concepts. It's a way of being able to just know something without being able to explain exactly how you arrived at that conclusion. So you might already know if you're quite intuitive just by the way your mind operates and perceives the world. But if you're not sure, you can also do the personality test online. So as a quick overview, you're probably intuitive if you usually notice the patterns and meaning behind messages. You're a deep intellectual thinker. You often have an inner knowing about something and have a hard time explaining these feelings to others. You think in terms of the future. You're open-minded about different ideas or new approaches, and you prefer to solve a problem in your mind rather than doing something practical to find the answer. So in the past, you might have noticed people might have said you were jumping to conclusions or overthinking something just because you had no proof. And then later you actually discovered that you were actually right. Or you might have been treated like you were different for some unknown reason. Or when you told someone your dreams and goals, they might have said to you to be more realistic. Now, people usually mean well. When they say these things, it's not very supportive for us. So again, there's nothing wrong with you. It's just a lack of awareness because a lot of people just don't understand. And if you're interested in finding out more about being intuitive, you can either research about it online. There's heaps more information if you look up the personality test, and there's also the MBTI, Myers-Briggs indicator. So now I'm going to talk about what it looks like when we're having some challenges with these traits versus feeling more balanced and thriving. So I'll just start by saying that life isn't a straight line and it's not meant to be perfect. It's a journey, and part of that means it's messy, and that's normal. There's no judgment in this space whatsoever. It's just good to find out what ways we can improve and become more balanced. So I think most of us start off going through what I call the unbalanced phase to start with, because it's not easy having these traits, especially if we're raised by parents who don't understand our specific needs. And you'll probably have a mix of both with balanced aspects as well, but hopefully these give you an idea of where you're predominantly at on your journey. So, in the unbalanced side of things, many of us can get anxious, be prone to overthinking, people pleasing, and overgiving because you're trying to keep the peace. Maybe we take life a bit too seriously and seek external validation that we're accepted and worthy, especially after we received all those negative and confusing messages in society. And some of these things can be quite challenging to deal with, so just remember to be kind and gentle with yourself. No one's perfect, everyone is human and at their own stage. So, as we go along the journey, we're aiming to develop a healthier, more balanced version of ourselves where you've got clear energy, you're feeling grounded in your body, you have healthier boundaries, and you've got a solid sense of self worth, regardless of whether other people accept you or not. So, like I said, it takes a lot of inner work to become more balanced, and it's something we can work at developing over time. Um, Particularly if you're struggling to do it on your own, sometimes you just need some support. And that's why it's important to invest in yourself and your healing from someone you really resonate with, someone you trust, someone who's been there before and really, truly can understand you. So, even though we have this certain set of challenges as highly sensitives and intuitives, we also have heaps of amazing strengths. We're caring, we're compassionate, supportive, and kind. These are all qualities that are desperately needed in the world today. We're highly creative. We tend to be good at all forms of creative expression. You might really enjoy something like creating art or creative writing, dancing, or music. We're deep thinkers and we're usually very good at analyzing things. We feel emotions more deeply than others do, both the highs and the lows. And we get really passionate about things we care about. We're also really authentic and value integrity. We tend to be idealistic and live by principles of fairness and morality. We have heightened awareness and we tend to notice a lot of subtleties that other people tend to miss. We can also predict and forecast things using our intuition. So we see the pattern that's likely to happen in the future. Just try to avoid the overthinking trap. And finally, we see the world differently to others, and that's what makes us special. And of course, there's many other things that make us unique to us individually as well. So there's heaps of strengths that come with these traits. And that's why they say sensitivity is actually a superpower. It's really important to remember that because usually our mind focuses on the negatives. So we tend to overlook the positive aspects and focus all our attention on the problems and challenges we have. But a big theme of positive psychology is shifting our mindset and remembering to focus on what's going right in life as well. Okay, so next we'll explore the top 5 challenges that come with having these traits and some helpful strategies to overcome them. So, if you're sensitive or intuitive, you've probably felt misunderstood by people a lot. You might have felt undervalued due to being different. And this often causes a sense of loneliness because even when you're surrounded by a room full of people, you can still lack that sense of belonging and feel like no one truly understands your depth. And that can be really challenging because belonging is one of the top human needs that we all have. And there's a great quote for this. It says, "You are not for everyone, and that's okay. The world is full of people who, no matter what you do, won't like you. But it's also filled with people who will love you fiercely. You are not for everyone, and that's okay." So what we can do here is we can connect with more like-minded people who do understand you and can support you in understanding yourself more deeply. You can also join some Facebook groups or other communities for similar people as well. I just find that really helpful for connecting with people who share the same traits as us. So the next challenge is self-acceptance. And it's really important that as we become more aware of this trait, that we accept it in ourselves. It's not something we can ever change, but we can get stronger in our boundaries and more empowered in our choices to be more self-honoring of our needs so that we can finally thrive in life, not just try to survive it. So I encourage you to feel into any resistance you may have. You can journal on it and then let it go. This is something I go deep into with my work. I can help you with this in my coaching and healing sessions as well. And there's a great quote. It says, "When you are born in a world you don't fit in, it's because you were born to help create a new one." Okay, another thing is having high expectations of ourselves. It's exhausting to care so much about every little thing and give our energy away, right? So what ended up working well for me personally is when I decided to act differently and I taught myself not to care about the little things anymore that seemed really big at the time. So the task here is how to learn how to put things into perspective and ensure that we're not giving our valuable energy away, our power. One way you can do this is when you notice yourself getting triggered by something, just ask yourself, how important is this really? Is this going to still impact me 1 year, 2 years from now? And then if your answer is no, you might realize that it's actually not such a big deal as it seemed in the moment. So we also need to learn to accept things outside of our control. Honestly, I used to waste so much time and energy trying to control everything. And as I discovered, it didn't really work so well. And then I discovered that acceptance really is the key to avoiding disappointment. So if you can't change something, your power is in accepting it and letting go of the attachment you have to your high expectations. The only thing you can really control in life is you. And I know it can be really challenging to accept those disappointing things in life, but what I've learned is if you don't accept it, you'll just keep dwelling on it and it will just keep causing you negative emotions again and again. So the next challenge is overthinking. And I've put a little joke here because I'm sure we can all relate to having a million tabs open on our computer. But this is what happens when our minds are running constantly nonstop. So as sensitives and intuitives, because we're so highly perceptive and analytical, we're also more prone to experiencing things like anxiety, depression, and overthinking. So if you notice yourself experiencing these things, it means that your mind is either dwelling on the past or worrying about the future. And overthinking happens when we get caught in this loop in our own heads, and it seems like no matter what we do, we just can't stop thinking negative thoughts. So we really need a way to get out of our head, to get out of that loop of being stuck. And when this happens, we can just gently remind ourselves to let go and bring our awareness back into our body and bring ourselves into the present moment. And a good way to do this is to distract yourself and change the pattern in your mind to something new. So you could watch a funny video or an inspiring talk on YouTube to change the mental and emotional state that you're in. Another thing you can do is physically get up from wherever you are, change your location, and take a break from all the thinking. And a great way to do that is to engage in a practical experience, engage your 5 senses. I love going out in nature and getting into a mindful state, getting fully present in the moment. And this works like a charm every time. Getting out of our minds, grounding ourselves back in our bodies really works. And if you're wanting specific strategies to help with this, I created a free energy clearing guide of 11 things I personally use to get grounded, stop overthinking, and clear my energy. So the next challenge is people pleasing, and there can be a lot of reasons for this. I believe it's because we're so sensitive to the energy around us and we can predict people's behavior patterns easily. And especially as women, we're often conditioned to try and keep people around us happy. And sometimes we tend to be overgivers or people pleasers, which might have been something we learnt early on in life as a way to prevent those people around us from having negative emotions. So some of us learned that instead of speaking up, we had to keep the peace and prioritize their happiness first. And that actually is not a healthy thing to do. The problem is that it has consequences on your health and happiness over the long term. So the strategy to overcome this is to get really clear on the boundaries between what is and what isn't your responsibility. What is yours and what's their stuff to deal with? For example, you're not responsible for someone else's negative emotions. That's entirely their responsibility, and you get to decide that it's not your duty to please them. And then once you know that, you can start to develop boundaries around your needs. So, for example, if someone's invading your space or disrespecting you or your emotions, these are all situations that call for a boundary to be implemented. And sometimes we think we have to explain all our reasons for saying no to something, but if something just isn't feeling right for you, then you're well within your rights to not have an excuse or an explanation. Sometimes no is a complete sentence, and you don't even have to say anything else. All right, so now we'll get on to the energy healings using Theta healing modality. So before we start, just say yes if I have your permission to do some healing downloads for you. It's super easy and simple to receive the healing downloads. All you have to do is say yes to each one, and it's nice for you to close your eyes as well. It'll just feel like a nice, peaceful, relaxing sensation through your body as the energy clears. Okay, so now you can just gently get comfortable in your chair, close down your eyes, ground your feet flat on the floor, take some nice deep breaths in and out. And just focus on your heart space. And in a minute, you'll hear me ask you some questions, and just say yes to each one if you want to receive them. Okay, so do you want to release and let go of the belief system that your sensitivity is a burden, a weakness, a flaw or defect in you, that it causes difficulties or stress in your life? And instead, do you want to know what it looks like and feels like to see it as a gift, something that makes you uniquely you and one of your greatest strengths? So if you'd like that, you can say yes. Beautiful. And do you want to release and let go of the belief that there's something wrong with you just because you're different, or that your intuition was misguiding you or deceiving you in the past? And do you want to let go of any fear, doubt, or mistrust you have of your inner voice? So if you'd like to clear all of that, say yes. And do you want to know what it looks like and feels like to really know and trust yourself and your inner guidance fully, knowing that you have everything you need inside of you and that you are guided, protected, and supported always? And if you like all of that, you can say yes. Beautiful. And just dropping down into your heart space in the center of your body, really feeling the feelings, feeling the energy clearings taking place instantly at a DNA level. When you're ready, you can slowly and gently begin to open your eyes and just take some nice deep cleansing breaths in and out. And remember to have a drink of water too if you like. Highly recommend that. Amazing. So that was just a quick taster of the theta healings that I do in my sessions. I'd love to hear, how do you guys feel now? Like, tune into your body. Do you notice any shifts in your energy after the healings? You can send me a message after the video. I would really love to know how that went for you. Beautiful. So we've covered a lot today. We've looked into what our traits really mean, deeper meaning, our strengths, and the top 5 most common challenges and strategies to overcome them. And then we just did the healing downloads. So here's a snapshot of a few testimonials of what my clients have said about working with me, what their experiences were in my sessions. Feeling really seen, heard, and understood, feeling the energy clearings really powerfully through their body, and actually seeing how their lives have changed and transformed once they've done the inner work. On the outside, seeing what they've manifested into their lives and manifesting incredible lives, incredible relationships, incredible businesses. This is a heart-centered coach or healer or change maker, whatever it is that you do. I've helped people really step into their purpose, and that's what I'm really passionate about. Oh, beautiful, everyone. So I'll explain a little bit more about what I do. As a coach, I specialize in working with sensitives and intuitives, and my role is to support you and hold space for you unconditionally so that you can speak your truth in a safe space. And I combine all the experience and the skills, the lessons from my own personal growth journey, as well as my intuitive guidance for you, so you can receive the clarity, the insights to help you along your journey. And yeah, because I'm also a theta healer, that means we can also dive deeper into your subconscious beliefs and unlock any limiting beliefs that might be blocking you from thriving. I'm also a Reiki healer. So yeah, when we work one-to-one in private sessions, I can actually help you to remove whatever the specific blocks are that are standing in your way in the fastest, easiest way possible. That way, you no longer feel stuck and you can easily move forward and become your best self. So there's a few different options if you're wondering how to get started in working with me. If you're brand new to Theta Healing and today was your first experience of it, I'm so excited for you. So if you're just starting on your journey as well as a highly sensitive person, then I'd highly recommend starting with the energy clearings for highly sensitive healers and change makers. That's a video course you can do. And in that course, we're just going to download you with heaps of energy clearings to really clear out all the things you've accumulated over a lifetime in all different aspects of your life related to being a highly sensitive person. So we go into topics like belonging, embracing your sensitivity as a strength, giving you healings for your mind, body, and spirit, and overcoming a lack mindset and switching that into an abundance mindset. And in your career or stepping into your purpose, we'll do theta healing downloads for all of that. And especially when it comes to self-love and boundaries and things like self-care and filling up your cup. So those are just a few examples of what we go into with the theta healings in that video. Or if you're ready to dive deeper and you want that private support, that really high level of support, one-to-one working with me, for the best and most powerful transformation, let's have a chat about my coaching and healing sessions, because I guarantee they will change your life in more ways than one. So let's connect. If you haven't already, I invite you to follow me and connect on social media through Facebook. If you type in my name there at belinda.davy.5. send me a message. Also, I'm on Instagram. The page is at heal.transform.align. So, yeah, if you haven't already, I encourage you to follow me over there. And please, when we connect, I would love to hear what takeaways you got from today's masterclass and which parts you enjoyed the most. So now we're at the end, and I just want to say a big thank you so much for joining today. I hope you got lots of value from the masterclass and gained a new perspective of your traits. And yeah, if you have any other questions or if you're interested in exploring what it looks like to work together, if you're wanting more information, just send me a message. And yeah, thank you so much again for joining today. Bye.